Hello and welcome to an Everquest video that's more of a discussion. This is about TLP and live server group compositions. This came about after some questions were asked in one of my live streams about TLP servers and stuff like that, and I kind of like the idea of starting a multi-boxing group on a TLP server, and kind of want to go through that. Thoughts, see if I'm going in the right direction. I haven't played on TLP since Agnar, so my information might be a little rusty. This video covers content for live and TLP servers. This is a theory crafting video, obviously. It's really based on my opinion, but I will take any feedback from anybody who has experience on TLP servers that knows more about them than me. I've used EQProgression.com, EQ Traders, Alakazam, and EQ items as some of my sources, and I have used random research on Google. There's like a wiki page that I found, but I can't find it anymore, that had some of the race information I go over. This is the standard class abilities thing that I have in most of my slides. I did add debuffs for as a selling point that a class should provide, like slow and stuff like that. That is actually important on a TLP server, whereas it's not as important, in my opinion, on live. So there's that, and then I added Beast Lords to the healing and Beast Lords to the movement speed. That was something that I had left off, and someone had left a comment for me to update. But for the most part, everything is about the same there. Just all the different class abilities that I think are important. So this is what I've tried in the past on TLP, and this is what I started with on live on my multi-boxing group. On Agnar, I started with a warrior, a cleric, an enchanter, a druid, a shaman, and a mage, and you can tell how bad that was. The DPS was low. The just overall wasn't that good. I tried to become a raid tank for a guild. Actually, was pretty successful at that. Did some tanking there and whatnot. But I quit Agnar at the end of Kunark. But as you can see, I have 3 healers and 1 like real DPS, and that's a problem in my opinion. So that group that setup just didn't work for me. And then on live, when I started there, I started with a shaman, a shadow knight, a bard, a wizard, a cleric, and a mage. And you can see that group did pretty well. There was a lot of combinations I've tried. I've tried all kinds of different things, but I actually ended up with completely different groups. So all my characters that I had on Agnar, I moved to live. So I moved them all to Bristlebane. They all got renamed because there was name conflicts and stuff like that. I remade some. Like my warrior was on the same account as my shadow knight, so I made a new warrior and whatnot. These are my 2 groups that I have currently at 120. I have a 3rd group in progress on live, but I ended up with a shadow knight, shaman, bard, beast lord, rogue, and berserker, which is a phenomenal group. Can kill everything group wise in the game that I have encountered so far. I have not found anything I cannot kill. Group 2 is a warrior, cleric, enchanter, druid, mage, and then sometimes gnome regard. Sometimes I switch some characters around every once in a while for different things, but it's an okay group. I'm not a huge fan of it. It's lower DPS, obviously, because just the way it is. It's got 2 healers and whatnot, so it is, and then the 3rd group has all the other characters that are still in the leveling progress. They're not 120 yet, so they're not important. All right, so on TLP servers, race actually matters, and if you can see by the pretty much rainbow colors I got going on here, there's 3 continents pretty much, and I don't count Kunark and Luckland yet. They're in the other section right now, but for the most part, most of the races start on Anatonica, and then Fedor, and then the Erudites spawn on Otis, and they're the only race that spawns there. So I don't plan on using any of them in any of my groups, just because I don't use them. Their stats aren't that great. High end, but that's about it. So, and then there's also evil and good. So the green ones are all kind of good, neutral characters. Red is evil, and Ixar is unique in the fact that no one likes them at all except for Ixar. The Vashir and the Froglok are neutral, from what I can tell. And neutral pretty much means good. You're not going to get killed in any of the green cities. But if you're a dark elf and you go to the high elf city of Felwith, you'll get probably killed. So the race kind of matters in that regard, like starting location. There's racial bonuses that actually still matter at this level 1 TLP kind of thing. So the ogre stun, the troll regen, the dark elf vision is actually something. No one else really has any. Ixar has the AC bonus and the regen, but for the most part, every other bonus is pretty balanced. The ogre one being probably the best bonus that you can get. Though I'm talking in comments with somebody who's telling me that at 120, he's getting 120 something extra regen as an Ixar over any other race. So that might be something. Actually to consider, and we'll go over that. But for the most part, race does matter, and this is where you start too. You don't start in Crescent Reach. For some reason, all my characters start in Crescent Reach until I make one, and then they can start elsewhere. But I don't know what that deal is on live. But on TLP, you will start in these cities, and so having starting locations next to each other is beneficial if you're going to do a mixed race group. Like a wood elf starts in Kuthin, and a high elf starts there. So those are in pretty much the same zone. Akanon is 2 zones over from Greater Fadark, and Paladin is 1 zone over from Greater Fadark. So, well, 2, I guess, if you count the city. But they're very close starting locations, so you have that. Halflings, they're kind of isolated. They start in the middle, I think, ish of Anatonica, in between Quinos and Freeport. So getting a halfling to one of those cities is a little bit of work. It's easier to get to Freeport, I think. Barbarians start in Hallis. It's easier to get them to Quinos than it is to Freeport. Ogres, they spawn in the swamp next to the trolls, and the dark elves spawn next to Freeport. So you gotta kind of have that kind of in mind, right? Because it's gonna take you 1 or 2 hours to get a character with your other characters. And being evil does matter, because if you take all your characters to the dwarf city and you're an ogre, you're not going to be able to get in the door, one, because you're big. So, you got to think of all these things, and they're going to kill you. So it matters a little bit on TLP. In TLP, there's these classes. So the tanks are Warrior, Paladin, Shadow Knight, Casters, Wizard, Mage, Enchanter, Necromancer, Healers, Shaman, Cleric, Druid, and Melee, Rogue, Ranger, Monk, Bard. And that means Beast Lords are not something you'd start as, Berserkers are not something you'd start as, and there's a few other races you can't start as. I think I mentioned them right here. This is Kunark, this is Lucklin, this is Keisha or something like that. It's Realm Planes of Power, so you can't really start as these ones. So they all matter. So these are some of the ideas that I had for groups that I was pondering over. There's a few pieces. So my first one was Warrior, Cleric, Enchanter, Wizard, Mage. So this gives me the best tank in the game, the best healer in the game, the best CC in the game, a Wizard for teleportation, high damage, and a Mage for high damage and tanking at the beginning, because a Warrior needs gear. All the tanks need gear, and it's starting out, you're not going to have any gear. So it's not like a live server where you can get Defiant that drops like candy. So something to consider. I like the Wizard here in this place because it's high damage and it kind of goes together. But the flaw of this group is there's no Spirit of Wolf. There's no No snare besides the wizard snare that I never gotten to work right. So it's got some downsides. My second group idea is a shaman and a shadow knight as the core, because those are probably one of the best duo. So you get, you know, a good shaman, good shadow knight. You'd pick up a bard and grab a wizard and some mages, and you have the same, you know, kind of group as this one here, but you get some light CC. But the shadow knight gives you snare, bard gives you speed, shaman gives you slow plus lots of buffs and some debuffs, so you get this mallow and slow and all that stuff. And mages have a form of mallow also. So it's a pretty good group, but you lose Tash. The next group idea was any of the tanks, a druid, an enchanter, and 3 mages. Now, this one I kind of like. An enchanter works well with mages because they provide clarity to all of them. So that's not a lost buff, right? Haste gets kind of lost in this because you can only haste the tank. But the druid brings Spirit of Wolf, teleports, and healing, and snare. So I mean, I lean. This is what I'm leaning towards right now. Group 3. Group 4 is a paladin, druid, enchanter, and 3 necros. I think a bard could probably also go in this spot here instead of enchanter. But I just don't know how well this group would work on a TLP server in Classic, because the mobs don't really have a lot of hit points. The highest mage nuke that I saw on Alakazam was like 700 hit points. So if you're doing you're doing some pretty good damage, right? It's like 2100 damage in one cycle from your 3 mages. Now a necro is going to have a ramp up time. I didn't look at how, what the biggest tick is on there, but I'm guessing it's about 100-ish. So you're not going to really be killing stuff as fast. But the benefit of this one is all 3 of these necros can feed mana to either of these ones. They can. The biggest problem I have on live with the druid is mana regen. And having 3 necros to be able to feed mana into the druid at all times is pretty big for that kind of thing. So they can, dot everything up. And since I'm using 3 of them, macroing that with IS Boxer would be fairly easy to do, and keep them synchronized in that they're doing their thing, the druid's doing one thing, and the enchanter is kind of like safety net. And this, I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, but all of this is based on the fact that if the new TLP that comes out is a non-TrueBox server that allows IS Boxer. So, all right. So, Group 5, kind of the same as the other one, but we kind of go with more variety. Shadow Knight, Shaman, Bard, Wizard, Necro, Mage. And this gives you 3 of the casters, a Bard, and then the Shaman. So we get the teleports from the Wizard. We get some a battle res from the Necro through their resing line. And we get some dots and some kind of tomfoolery that you can do with like 2 FD classes to pull. So you get a little thing there. Since the CC and a Bard is, in my opinion, kind of weak. And then the last group idea I had was a warrior, a druid, an enchanter, a cleric, and 2 mages. Now this gives us the best tank, the best healer. It gives us a backup healer, DPS, the enchanter, and 2 mages. And this one is, I think, a pretty strong group, because a warrior and a cleric can pretty much kill anything as long as they can complete heal. as long as the tank can stay alive for 10 seconds, the cleric will eventually kill it. I mean, the warrior and the cleric will eventually kill it. So, I think this is a very strong group too. But yeah. So what I went with, my choice is gonna be if the TLP server that they release here in the spring is not a true box, and it is going to be IS Boxer allowed, like the current boxing servers, then I'm going to go with a Dwarf Paladin, a Wood Elf Druid, a High Elf Enchanter, and 3 high elf mages. Now, I find this is probably going to be the best layout, right? Shadow Knight might be the ideal choice, but I want to main this character and actually try to do some classic raids. And I think everybody and their mother is going to be running a Shadow Knight. So I think if I do a dwarf, I could fill a different niche inside of a raid and definitely be able to get a raid spot for that character. I don't want to do the main tanking as a warrior. It just kind of gets boring when there's nothing to do. Like, it's literally turn on an auto attack and hit 2 or 3 buttons. There's not much to a warrior. It would be optimal for boxing because then I could just turn on auto attack and let it do its thing, but it is what it is. I'm going with Druid for my healer. Mostly because of the ports, but snare also. Shaman would be okay, but we're already picking up slow from the enchanter. I did a bard. I've done bards. I've done the melody. It just doesn't work very well for me. I've always had it like stop working, and I have to like babysit it, and it's more effort, and it's easier to do X target mezzing with an enchanter than it is with a bard. So I prefer enchanters for that kind of thing. And the enchanter brings a lot to the table, right? Tash, slow, clarity, haste. He's only going to haste the paladin, but it's okay. CC, and then minor DPS. I don't like charming. I don't have the attention span to babysit charm timers and stuff like that. So I just, it's going to be that safety net character for the group for the most part. And then the 3 mages are going to be the DPS and the tank. For the first few levels, we're going to have an earth tank and then maybe 2 airs. I think airs or waters, and that should give enough DPS and tanking that the rest of the group is pretty much okay. The mage can then heal their own pets and buff their own pets with burnout and all that stuff. So it works out really well, in my opinion. In theory, right? I might have to try this on live and see how it works, but everybody kind of, starts in the same location. And then this last mage in Luckland, I would probably switch it to a Beast Lord for extra mana regen and the mini shaman buffs that a Beast Lord can provide over time. And it'll kind of round out the group a little bit better over there. So, and then my reasoning is the Fate Arc start. I don't know if anybody's got a name for this, but I started looking at this. We start in Greater Fate Arc. We can get to 10 in that or Butcher Block, 12 in Crush Bone. We can go to Unrest. We can stay there till 35. At 30, ends 32. The Druid will get the ports for South Row, Firot, Lava Storm, giving us access to Khazak-Dul, Guk, Soul A, and Soul B to round out the rest of our leveling 250 on the TLP server. I think this is like an ideal start for me. It just seems pretty logical. The Paladin will have a 50% res at 50, so that's pretty good in my opinion. At 60, they should have a 90% res, and I don't know if Druids will have their res in. I don't know when they get that. I know they get one at 59, but I don't know how that works on TLP. I could not find a good TLP spell listing for each era. Alakazam's kind of like mixes them all in, so it was kind of weird. All right, so that's my reasoning for that. On live servers, I'm planning on starting a new multi-boxing group. It's either going to be on the TLP or it's going to be on live server. So my 2 choices right now for the live server is either an evil group or a good group. I need a wizard for doing the wizard epic 1 and 2 and 1.5 for a video. So the wizard is kind of like the constant between these 2 groups, and a gnome is a neutral character, so they can go evil or good. So the evil group, I'm thinking a gnome shadow knight, a troll shaman, and a dark elf enchanter. I spelled it wrong. An Ixar necromancer and a mage dark elf. I want to try out a Ixar Necromancer just because I hear they're good, and I want to see what the difference is at 120 between Gnome Regard and the Ixar we create here. So that's one option. The other option is a Halfling Paladin, Halfling Druid, High Elf Enchanter, the Wizard as a Gnome, and then 2 High Elf Mages. I want to kind of emulate the same thing I'm doing on the TLP if that doesn't happen. So it's kind of the same kind of thing, but Halfling Paladins aren't available till Luckland, and you know, it is what it is. This group doesn't really matter because it's live. They'll all start in Crescent Reach on new accounts because I create 1 character per account. I don't double them up, so it'll be kind of like that. And yeah, so that's kind of where I'm headed on this group. I want as low actions per minute as I can, because at the high end game at 120, it's you know, if you there's a lot of things to hit, and it gets a little challenging. So doubling up the same classes helps with that, things like that. So, and this is just using IS Boxer, not using anything else. And no melee. Boxing melee is a pain. It takes a lot of effort. It's part of the reason why I don't make the videos on them anymore, because I've switched to melee, and it's a lot of extra work, and it ends up me focusing more on doing that than you know, like commentary and stuff like that. So I think these groups are low action per minute. The necros in a group aren't that great, in all honesty. I have 120 necro, and I mean, on bosses he burns better than everybody, but it's challenging to kill something that like on the 120 mobs, right? All the new Terror luck on stuff. I have a kill time of between 10 and 45 seconds depending on the mob. If I can get good backstabs off on my rogue, things just melt. And that's when I use the Necromancer in my main group as the instead of a Berserker. But in the other group, you know, it has a little bit more time to tick, but the mage, you know, is doing direct damage. So there's, you know, you have to change the way you play a necro, and there's going to be, I'm probably going to do a video on how I do a group necro, just to kind of explain some of that to some people, just because I've gotten a few questions on it. But it's more like helping out the group versus, you know, trying to do as much damage. But here are all my things, my YouTube, my Twitch, my Twitter, my Reddit, all the links. Check them out. But I guess that's it. I guess I got rid of the questions. Yeah, I got rid of the questions one. So yeah, that's it. If there's any other questions or comments, please let me know down below in the comments section, and I will respond to every single comment or feedback and try. Maybe I'm doing it wrong. Maybe I have the right idea. Please let me know. Thank you very much for watching, and have a fantastic day.